Against a solo offlaner, the most important thing is to maintain good lane equilibrium. This involves making sure the creep waves meet close to your tower but not under it, and that they stay in that position and don't push towards the enemy offlane tower. Whilst this is mainly the carry's responsibility to keep lane equilibrium by denying as well as last hitting, there are some things you can do to help. Occasionally you get unlucky with which creeps attack which creeps at the start, and when your carry last hits the first one, it gets out of control, and I've seen even good carry players accidentally push the first wave. You can make sure this doesn't happen by helping your carry with the first deny. Your first lane creep that gets below half health, just right click it a couple of times. So even if your carry goes for an early last hit on their creeps, one of yours will be denied as well, and it makes it almost impossible for it to push. This does mean that you spend the first 5 seconds of the lane not zoning the offlaner, and so he does get the XP from that one creep, but your main goal is to stop him from getting level 2, and you can't get level 2 off of one creep. After you've denied that creep, then you go into zoning and harassment mode. Another important thing is to not draw creep aggro whilst zoning the offlaner out. You do the thing where you loop around and attack the offlaner from between his tower and the creep wave. If he tries to run into the creep wave, you use your creep aggro tricks to not aggro him while still being able to attack him. And finally, you only need to pull the lane if it does push. If you pull the lane whilst you have good creep equilibrium, then the creeps are just going to go under tower in the next wave, and it's going to completely mess it up. It's not worth pulling if you can safely zone the offlaner out of XP range. Keeping the offlaner lower level is more important. The next point for playing against solo offlaners is quite hard, and you just need experience really. One of the best things you can do against a solo offlaner is actually to just leave the lane as soon as possible, because by staying in the lane you're taking XP from your carry and you're not helping win other lanes. Often if you've played the start of the laning phase well, what will happen is your carry will be level 5 when the enemy offlaner is level 2 or 3. Many times in these situations, the carry can now safely 1v1 without the enemy offlaner being able to contest them. Things you need to look at to see whether it's safe to leave them 1v1 is, does your carry have enough regen or lifesteal to sustain against any harass the offlaner can take? And also, does your carry have a base damage advantage so that the enemy offlaner cannot contest him for last hits? If both these conditions are true, you can leave the lane, go and win mid, go and win top, and your carry will still be able to get every single last hit, every single deny, and the enemy offlaner will be feeling very sad because he wants to go into the lane 1v1, but if he does, he still can't last hit, and he risks dying solo to your carry. One thing to mention is that if you are going to leave your carry, you often want to put a lane ward up to spot for any rotations, because obviously if he's left 1v1, if they bring 1 or 2 heroes to the lane, then they can potentially kill him whilst he's alone. Choose appropriate times to kill the solo offlaner. Don't just randomly get bored and go on him, because every time you go on the enemy offlaner, you're likely to draw creep aggro, and it's likely to screw up the lane equilibrium, push into his tower, and give him free levels and last hits. This means that you have to make sure you're going to get the kill before you go for it. Things you need to check are, does your carry have any spells which are on cooldown? Things like Sven Stun, Juggernaut Spin. If you go on the offlaner and use your spells when your carries are on cooldown, then you're less likely to get the kill. And when your carry does have those spells, you now don't have your spells. It's pretty simple, but just don't do this. You also have to consider whether your carry will miss a lot of CS if you go for the kill. Try not to go for the kill when the enemy has low health creeps, where your creeps will kill them whilst you're killing the offlaner. You want to get a clean kill on the offlaner where you don't miss any CS and it's very gold efficient. Unlike in dual lanes where you're often trading harassment quite heavily, you're often low on health or mana, or don't have your TP scroll available, against a solo offlaner you will almost always have good health, good mana, and your TP scroll ready to go. Therefore, a lot of the time spent playing against a solo offlaner should be spent watching the minimap, checking for the enemy team tower diving. If the enemy team does tower dive, you can TP in, turn it, get a double kill, and help win that lane. Leaving your carry 1v1 is never the worst thing, whereas if it was against a dual lane, if you leave them 1v2, that's a lot more dangerous. So against a solo offlaner, watch the minimap for tower dives, TP in if they dive. You can always walk back to safe lane if your carry still needs you. Here is a small video clip demonstrating the last solo offlane game I played. Me and PA don't play it that well. I think mainly because solo offlanes are so rare nowadays. We didn't identify it early enough, and this meant we didn't get good lane equilibrium, and we let her get a lot of levels for free. What you'll see here is that if you see this, what Wind did, which is a clever trick if you are solo offlaning, is whilst body blocking creeps, she let the range creep through, let the range creep go first. So that is going to die, and because that dies first, the range creep does the most damage to other lane creeps. If this creep dies first, it means that the lane's always going to push into her, no matter what me and PA do. Even if we don't draw any creep aggro, it's still going to push. Here is the block from Windrunner's perspective, where block the melee creeps but let the range creep through. How you can protect against this is, as the support player, you can go to just outside their tower and you can basically block their range creep until the other creeps catch up to it and counter it, or you need to have your carry successfully block your creeps in the same manner to let the range creep through. Because neither of us did that, because when you're playing against dual lanes, lane equilibrium doesn't matter too much, so people don't really do these kind of things. We just didn't expect the solo offlane, we didn't do it, and you'll see now we get kind of punished by giving Wind a free level 2. But it does show you what you can do after the lane is pushed. So you see, I try and focus on denying, but I start to realise the range creep's already dead. It's going to push whatever. And as it's pushing, we just do a double pull to fix lane equilibrium. And also, Wind Ranger's not going to get any XP for these creeps. Because I'm playing against a solo offlane, I can farm this camp safely. If it was against a dual offlane, it might be a bit scary doing this. They could come over as 2 and kill me. But just against Wind alone, I know I'm pretty safe to just farm. And I make sure I get the denies, like I get that range creep deny as well. So I get the maximum amount of XP from the pull. And if you see now, look where the lane is. This is a perfect lane position. And this is just from doing a double pull after it started pushing. Now the lane's in a good position, we can focus on zoning wind. She's already got level 2, which makes it a bit harder for us, but we'll do our best. I'm not too worried about damaging the creeps there because Wind will use her power shot to CS herself like that, and the lane's not going to push in this exact scenario, even if I damage the creeps. It gets pulled under tower, which isn't great, but as you see, it's still in an okay position. Now, if it was any other offlaner, I would be right-clicking them more, but as soon as I go in to right-click them, she can just wind run and hit me back, and I will run out of regen before her. So I mainly just use my spells and get a few free right clicks in when I can. You see me playing in the tree line so that she can't get free right clicks on me. If you ever Clarity as a support, you'll realise that the enemy really wants to cancel it, so you can kind of abuse that and bait them in. You see here, I get her to use her wind run because she really wants to cancel my Clarity. And at this stage of the game, she's had to buy more regen. She's bought 6 more tangos and a salve from base, but we're still keeping her quite low. And although this solo offlane, we haven't played it perfectly, we've let her get a lot of XP. If we stop it and look at the last hits and denies, you can see that our PA has the most last hits in the game, the most denies in the game, and Wind Ranger has a few last hits, but because she's been focused on trading her harassment with me, she hasn't been able to contest last hits with the PA. And then if you look at our levels, we're level 4 and 3. Wind Ranger is only level 3 herself, and this roaming ES that turns up is only level 2. This is the ideal situation when you play against a solo offlane. Even though it's not being played to perfection, because the PA has so many creep denies, this means that she's already out leveling the wind. And these fights, imagine if this Earth Spirit was level 3 or the wind was level 4, we wouldn't be winning these fights and these trades. But we are narrowly winning them because we're higher level. As the video goes on, not much more happens. We can go on her and kill her again. Again, if we're slightly lower level and they're slightly higher level, this trade goes much worse for us. So that's why you focus on denying XP and giving your carry space to get all the denies as well as all the last hits. The rest of the video, at this stage, I kind of think PA's got a ring of health. She can ferry herself more regen. The shrine is up. She should just be able to stay solo against wind. She's a couple of levels ahead, and with her crit available, it's kind of scary for Wind Ranger to stay in the lane. So at this stage, I think it's okay to leave the PA 1v1. She kind of has to misplay to die. So instead I run bottom and try and pressure this PL. So recap on the important points against the solo offlane. Lane equilibrium is the most important thing. Make sure the wave doesn't push. Do this by helping your carry with the first deny. Don't draw aggro whilst you're zoning. If the lane does push, you just pull creeps to get it back in a good position. Once it's safe for your carry to 1v1 the enemy offlaner because they have a level advantage and a base damage advantage and they have enough health regen, leave the lane, win another lane. Choose appropriate times to go on the enemy offlaner and kill them. Only do it when your carry is close enough to help, they won't miss CS, and they have all their spells off cooldown. Watch the mini map for tower dives so that you can help other places on the map and help your other lanes.